Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for Disney's The Little Mermaid live action. The Little Mermaid is directed by Rob Marshall and stars Halle Bailey, Melissa McCarthy, Jonah Hauer-King, Daveed Diggs, Awkwafina, Jacob Tremblay, and Javier Bardem. So normally we give you guys like a synopsis or the plot of the movie that we're talking about. Not all the time, but usually. But I feel like for The Little Mermaid, by this time, most people have seen the 1987 animated version.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's a live action remake of that movie. And they pretty much in this movie do hit most of the beats and follow the storyline pretty closely. True, there's little tweaks here and there, but we're not going to get into those because we don't really want to spoil any of them for you. We might reference and talk about them, but we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, so this movie, I was really looking forward to it because The Little Mermaid is my favorite childhood movie. And I'll just give you guys this right now, like, upon leaving the premiere and I was kind of tweeting out my initial reaction, I was like, wait, I enjoyed that so much. I think this might actually be my favorite Disney live action to date. And then immediately somebody was like, well, what about Cinderella and the Jungle Book? And I'm like, that's a fair question. I think Cinderella with Lily James and the Jungle Book that was directed by Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
They're both excellent movies. And I think like not cinematography, how do I say it? Like the adaptation of like visually, I think it was more elevated, both of those films, than The Little Mermaid. But for personal reasons, the Cinderella and the Jungle Book was never, even in animated form, like I liked them as a child, but I didn't watch them over and over and over. The The Little Mermaid, I watched until I'm gonna date myself. The VHS tapes started to have like little lines. Because, you know, you rewind it too many times, and then that tape just starts to wear out.
And also the fact that you had Little Mermaid bed sheets, you had Little Mermaid lunch boxes. From what you told me, you actually you had a lot of Little Mermaid merchandise. So seeing this movie brought to life, I can understand where it is a big deal for you. I mean, I even remember when we went to D23 and we saw the clip of
Halle Bailey singing A Part of Your World.
A Part of Your World. I deliberately stopped watching it and looked over at you because I knew how important it was to you and what it meant, and just to see you moved to tears on just how much it actually affected you.
It's crazy because I don't know how many times from child to adulthood that I have watched the animated version of The Little Mermaid, like the original one, and A Part of Your World, while Jodie Benson does obviously a beautiful job with her iconic song, I've never, like, I've loved it, I sing along with it, you know, and I feel for Ariel and all this and that. I've never, even as an adult, like, I've never cried about any part in the movie or any part during that song. When we saw it at D23 and she like opened her mouth, and I already knew, like I knew she was a fantastic singer.
Yeah, we heard a lot of
discovered by Beyonce, her and her sister. I was like, all right, like this is like raw talent right here. So
if Beyonce's going, oh, you're going to be a star, yeah, that you're going to be, you have some talent.
Yeah. So I already knew the singing was going to be off the charts, no pun intended. But what I didn't know that it was going to affect me so much emotionally. Like, I was sobbing.
Yeah.
But the thing was, at D23, I didn't realize I was crying until the song was over, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Then we're sitting at the premiere, and the song starts, you know, and I was like, Can't Hurt Me. I've already seen it. I know what it sounds like. I've seen the like little videos that they've released. Like, I'm fine. I got this. And I'm like crying all over again. She's saying 2 sentences and I'm like, bah!
And you know, that is something that I do have to admit. From what we saw in the trailers, from what we heard about before going into this movie, there was never any question about Halle Bailey. I always...
it's like Halle Berry.
Bailey. I know. Anytime I say Halle, though, I want to say... And then if I say... But yeah. Halle Bailey is her singing skills. And the fact that even though it's... she doesn't really change anything in the song, but there's something that just grabs you when she sings. There's something about it that just really does just kind of tug on those heartstrings when she's bringing this song to life.
Yeah.
And her singing performances was never in question. And as a matter of fact, it was one of the things that we were looking forward to the most in this movie.
Yeah, we're like, oh, the soundtrack's probably gonna slap, so you know. I think with Hailey, her personality, she's just so sweet and cheerful, and she's that very like, I'm inspired, I'm motivating like person who continues to like search for better versions of herself. And it's a lot like Ariel, where she's curious and she wants to know about all this and that. And I think so she really made that role into her own without changing the essence that is Ariel. So I really like that they didn't go and change like too much. They didn't make her, you know, they didn't write the character to be completely different than the animated. Some of the changes that they did make, and I feel like the casting is released, so we can talk about this. There is Eric's mom, the Queen Selena. She is a brand new role. She was not mentioned at all. She didn't exist for the original animated film, but they brought her in they created this role, this character for The Little Mermaid. I actually liked her addition a lot.
Yes, it made a good stabilizing kind of factor. It made it a little bit more real, a little bit more of that royal family. The Queen was very much a stabilizing force of trying to get Eric onto this be responsible kind of path. And I like the fact that they played that role and they had someone to be able to be there to kind of guide him into that, no, someday you're going to be king.
Yes. And it gives more layers to Eric, because I feel like with a lot of Disney princes, like they fall into this category that like it's kind of like be the hero, save the girl, and then like that's kind of, you know, like the romance, then the happily ever after at the end. But it doesn't, because it's the princess's story. The prince gets either no backstory at all or a very thin one at best. Like maybe Beauty and the Beast had a you know, a pretty good one considering it's Beauty and the Beast. But with this one, Eric gets to talk about more of like his mindset on being king, what he like, you know. So we know what Ariel's story is. Like she wants to go to the surface, she wants to know more about humans. What does Eric want? And we get to explore that a little bit, and why it makes sense for Ariel to have met him and then fall in love with him. So it wasn't just like, oh my gosh, I saw him on the ship, I saved him from the shipwreck and we're in love.
He's so dreamy.
Yeah, it was a lot more than that. So I really like that change a lot. And then so now let's talk about some of the other changes that they made, and that is musically, they added a few new songs to the movie. I don't want to get so far into like what songs and like how they are sang, because I feel like it's important for you to kind of explore that on your own without us talking about it. But I will say certain characters have songs, and there's one certain character that I was just like not feeling the song. I don't know if it was just me or not, but it was kind of forgettable. I like that they got to sing, but it was, and I understand why, but it also felt kind of unnecessary. I felt like we could have used that time for something else.
I really do agree with that. I think all of the new songs were very unnecessary. They didn't really need
I did like one of the new songs. There's by oh, do I say it? It's with the Sidekicks.
Honestly, okay. I
actually kind of like that one.
I do have to admit, my opinion on that song is completely different.
Yeah.
I actually thought that song, it was in a completely different style of all of the other songs. And I was sitting here kind of going, I just wasn't prepared for this kind of a song to happen. And it kind of threw me for a loop. I think if either this song was on its own, or if this song was if all the other songs kind of fit that style, then of course we would have had to change some of the classic songs. But for some reason, it just I was struck dumb a little bit, going, this feels weird. It feels awkward.
I feel like it's because most of the new, and I could be wrong, but it feels like the style of some of the other new songs were in the style of Alan Menken, and then the Sidekick song was in the style of Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is very, very unique and very specific.
That is
which is probably why I liked it, because I like his style.
Well, and that's the thing. Lin-Manuel Miranda's style is very distinct. It is very stylized, and it stands out amongst many different styles. So when you have it, when that one song is the only song that's in that style, I found it to be a little
jarring.
A little jarring.
I can see that. Speaking of jarring, let's talk about the special effects and CGI, because we didn't put that at the top of this review because we wanted to talk about the story first before we get into the visual of it, but it's inevitable because this movie had to rely a lot on CGI and special effects because most of it takes place underwater, and not every movie can take 4 or 5 years like Avatar and do all of that with the kind of funding that they have. And
half of their actors' bodies are cut off and CGI'd because it's all mermaid tail.
It's all mermaid tail or tentacles.
And even most of their actors are completely CGI'd characters. Whether you have Flounder or Sebastian or Scuttle, all of them are now 100% realistic looking, photorealistic animals, which I have to admit, that did not catch me off guard as much as I thought. I was sitting here going, because we're used to Sebastian looking like a thumb with a shell on it, but now we actually have a real looking crab doing all of these lines, and you have a realistic looking seagull and a realistic looking flounder.
So what's funny is the very first time, I think it was probably at D23, 2019, and we, got treated to a bunch of Little Mermaid, like, scenes and first looks and whatever.
And concept art.
And yeah, exactly. And somehow, I don't know, my brain was just not computing because I was tired from, like, a full day of, presentation or whatever. But, the pictures of Flounder, Sebastian, and Scuttle popped up, and I went, I forgot for a second that they can't be cartoon in a photorealistic, like, it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And my brain was so trained to be like, Flounder looks like this, Scuttle looks like that, Sebastian looks like this, that, like, I totally forgot, and then I got, like, scared, and I was like, I don't know if I can watch, at that point, I was like, I don't know if I can watch this movie with Flounder looking the way they do. And I kept thinking that up until the day before, like, the day of we're seeing the movie, and then we sat down, the movie starts, and everything starts going, and then I realized it really didn't bother me that much.
Yeah, I have to admit, it wasn't as bad. And once you start getting, because fortunately the performances of the of the actors did a really good job. Everyone did great voice acting. They matched the characters well, even if they didn't sound. Sebastian did a great job on sounding like Sebastian. Flounder sounded pretty good, and even though Awkwafina is obviously sounding very different from the Scuttle that's in the movie, it didn't.
But it worked.
Yeah, it worked. I thought it worked very well. However, there are a lot of moments to where you're going, ooh, that's green screen, or even when they're
the lighting was weird, it was too harsh or too pale, or
or too bright.
Yeah,
and also, I have to admit, one of the songs that I really was looking forward to was Under the Sea.
Oh, I'm so glad you reminded us to talk about this. Let's get into it.
And it was so underwhelming. In the animated cartoon, you have all these fish that are singing along and doing the music, and there's vibrant colors, and this song, it just seemed kind of flat. It seemed like only really Sebastian was singing or adding any kind of musicality to the atmosphere, and there wasn't that many bright, vibrant colors, and they just it just looked green screened. The CGI just pulled me out of it, and I have to admit, it was kind of rough to watch all the way through.
Yeah, so when we're talking about kind of criticizing this song, it's not the performance itself. Musically, it sounds great. Got Daveed Diggs singing. Halle Bailey has a couple of lines in it. That's some of the changes that they made. I really liked musically. Like when you hear it on the soundtrack, it's gonna sound great. It sounds like a party, but the song, the musical portion of it doesn't match it visually. So in the end, obviously there's so much more you can do in the animation. You can draw whatever you want, right? Your imagination, put it on a piece of paper, add color and all this and that, and it comes to life. With special effects and CGI, I think it's a little bit harder to kind of like blend the two. The screen,
well, especially photorealistic
yeah,
CGI.
The screen never filled up for me with all these like vibrant sea life, sea creatures and colors like it did for the animation. There's a lot of like empty spots, and I think a part of it is because they were trying to keep it photorealistic and make it like make sense. But at the same time, we're talking about a mermaid having like it's a story about a mermaid, so like let's get into the fantastical part of it, and make it super magical. So I was a little disappointed visually by Under the Sea, but the song is still really good.
And something else that I was kind of disappointed in, when Wendy pointed it out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so right. King Triton's castle is non-existent.
It doesn't look like
it doesn't look like there's a, you know, in the animated movie there's this moment to where it looks like a whole a city, and there's beautiful castles. And yeah, it kind of has this Atlantis feel to it.
Yeah.
None of that. They're just rocks. Just rocks.
It doesn't even...
And I'm like, whoa, what happened to this under the sea city that's magical and just vibrant? And
it was disappointing.
It was, yeah, they're all just sitting around in a cave on rocks.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, it would have been nice if they spruced up the place a little bit.
Yeah, just add a little bit more oomph to it. What was not disappointing was Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. I was very weary about it going forward.
Same here.
I don't remember if we knew that she had she was a singer. We knew that she was theatrical. We knew that.
And she pulls off that theatrics
acting wise,
so well.
we were like for sure. And then after hearing her in the trailer, and I was like, oh, I think the voice sounds pretty good.
Yes.
And then we're like, well, we'll see how she actually looks, you know, because it's her skin is purple. She's got this hair and like this insane makeup. She really does look like the animated version come to life. She embraced that role, and yes, at times, and this kind of throughout the movie, a lot of the lines are recited almost exactly beat for beat like the animated. But I feel like if they hadn't for some of these very iconic ones, and they made it too different, I feel like the fans would have been like, hey, that's not, you know. But she still made it her own. The song Poor Unfortunate Soul was so good. People were clapping in the theater. It was so good.
I have to admit, there were a lot of fun moments in that song, and I think she hit most of it very well. There were some keys that I feel like they adjusted a little bit just so it could fit within Melissa McCarthy's range. But every other thing about that song, about her performance, was really good. And when you watch the movie, you can see that Melissa McCarthy is having the time of her life playing this role.
It's Ursula.
It's Ursula to where she gets to play a baddie. I did miss the fact that they don't have any kind of relationship between Ursula and Flotsam and Jetsam. Flotsam and Jetsam.
Love them.
So when that moment comes when she accidentally,
my
babies! There was no real like, oh yeah, that's right. She loves them a lot.
I mean, she does a little bit, but
in the movie,
Flotsam and Jetsam in the animated had a lot more to do and a lot more interactions with Ursula versus this one. I think they really gave the time to other things.
And I don't think they had any lines.
No, they
didn't. I don't think they had any lines at all. And I'm kind of like, these are the these are the goons. These are the bad guys.
It's like Cruella and her two.
Yeah,
Jasper.
You need to give them lines. You need to give them that relationship with. I almost said Cruella, but with Ursula.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, she is so fun to watch. Like at one point, her character just goes completely unhinged, and it was so great to see that. And plus, she did bring a little bit of her like own personal like comedic timing to it, and it worked out really, really well for the film. So we liked it a lot. And I really liked all the above land stuff as well, because they also built out what the citizens are on the land a little bit more so than the film. So it gave us, because of Eric and the Queen, so it gave us a lot more insight into that. So overall, Go ahead.
One thing that I do miss a little bit in the live action is the fact that when Ariel does finally get on land, there is one cute moment when she's trying to get Eric to say her name. That's cute.
Oh, Kiss the Girl was so good.
Everything else, I'm like, I wanted her to be more animated. Like she's struggling. She's trying to get the words out of her, but she can't speak. So she's more physically animated. They do that very well in the cartoon, to where you can animate Ariel to be big and animated and to be able to be like trying to express all these emotions. But I feel like they really dumbed that down in the live action when Ariel was on land. I wanted to see her almost trying to use sign language, almost trying to be like mouthing the words. But she's very, when she gets on land, Ariel becomes a little bit more monotone, I feel. Now, true, she's not talking. Monotone in the way of, since I can't talk, I think I would be so much bigger and being like pointing and, you know, trying to do something to communicate all of these feelings and emotions that I have.
So I've been thinking about this because you and I talked about this on the way home from after seeing the movie.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe, and this is just my theory, and I'm not going to like go into, because this is almost spoiler territory, but I'm not going to. I think a part of the reason why that was kind of her like characteristic while she's on land is because of what had happened right before with Ursula.
Okay.
That might have some, but again, that's like my own theory. But I do agree. I was hoping that she would be a little bit more like excited. Like she was excited, but it wasn't. I felt like that kind of like contained itself very quickly.
And that's something else too, is that Ariel is finally in the world that she has been dying to be a part of. There was no, what's this kind of moment. Like, there was some excitement, but I think that I would have liked to have seen them play it up. Like in the animated movie, when she finally gets the reins, and she has a little bit of a kind of look on her face. I kind of wanted to see something like that, to where you're like, Ariel's lost it right now.
She's so excited.
She's too excited.
So those are our non-spoiler thoughts on the live action The Little Mermaid. We're going to go ahead and give you guys our rating, and if you want to know the movie couple rating, it is listed for you in the video description below. Dustin, what would you rate The Little Mermaid?
Overall, there are a lot of fun things to see about this movie. Melissa McCarthy's performance, Halle Bailey's singing, and a lot of the fun characters that they do bring. The CGI is a little cringy at sometimes, and there's some parts that I wish they would have switched and changed around a bit, but I still think it's worth watching. I'm going to give it a stream it.
And for me, look, this was my childhood favorite movie, so and I think it has become my favorite Disney live action movie. I don't know if that's saying much. But I found it so entertaining. There was a lot of really just cute, endearing moments, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie a check it out. Well, you guys, that's it for our review for The Little Mermaid. Let us know your thoughts once you've seen the film in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.